What's going on, everybody? And welcome to a new year and a new episode of Closers. I am James the Greek, and I'm very excited to have you guys joining us. And with me, as always, is the king of baseball, the former number one draft pick, and my good friend, the former closer for the Mariners, Mr. David Aardsma. DA, what's going on, buddy?
Former number one draft pick. I will take that. 22nd pick. First rounder. Former first rounder. You say former number one pick of the Giants. You can go there.
All right, there you go.
I'm okay with that. But I mean, if I was first overall, that might be one of the worst draft picks of all time.
No. You're still better than like Tom Van Poppel.
Oh, yeah. God, he is so good. I thought he was going to be great. I had his rookie card, his upper deck rookie card. I was like, dude, this is going to hit. Like Todd Van Poppel, like, here we go. Like Todd, we got it. But speaking of James, I gotta give you credit for Christmas gift. You did give me a Griffey rookie card, the upper deck, the sought after one. This is awesome. It was something I've always wanted, something I've always kind of looked for, and it's awesome.
Sorry, it wasn't a better grade.
It's only 7.5. That kind of pisses me off, though.
I'm sorry, but I had to keep the good ones for my personal collection. What do you want me to tell you?
What's your highest one graded you have?
I have one graded a 96 out of 100.
A Griffey one?
Yeah, Griffey upper deck rookie. I have every one of his like mainstream rookie cards, the tops, the Bowman, all of them graded a 9 or better. And I have one of them where it's autographed. It's the rookies, and it's autographed. Yeah. So I have that too. So I got a lot of Griffey rookies. You can actually see them over my shoulder, right there. They're all nice. There. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So, how was your Christmas? How was Mexico?
Mexico was good. We went to this resort in Mexico. It was a little too big though. It was a massive resort, and like had like a 3/4 mile walk every time. Like we wanted to go down to the beach, go down to the pool. It was crazy. Like we actually, our room wasn't that far away compared to a lot of rooms. So there's no rooms that were even close, and it's like that was the only thing. It kind of sucked having to walk all that way all the time. But like again, like we work out a lot, right? We're constantly moving, constantly like this, so it works for us. But I don't think I'd ever go back. It was exhausting just to be like, all right, cool, let's go to dinner. And we're like, all right, we have a half-mile walk, and like that's everybody. Everybody has that walk. So it wasn't like we got this crappy room. We actually had this great room, this suite, and but it was just like I'd rather go to a resort like and be right where I want to open up the blinds and see the ocean, and that to me is like money is exactly what you're paying for. So it was all right. But then we always fly back on my birthday. So on the 27th was my birthday, and we're always on a plane on my birthday. It's become family tradition. I hate that tradition. But so we flew back on my birthday, and then got back here, celebrated Christmas the next day, and then Penn State went on into the college football playoffs. So then they were here in the Fiesta Bowl. So I took my dad and my boys out to the Fiesta Bowl and had the time of our lives on New Year's Eve, and then ended up going out late New Year's Eve. Hosted a party yesterday to watch Arizona State versus Texas, which, dude, I can't believe you're not a college football fan. Like, if you would have watched that game, James, you would have become a college football fan by just watching that game.
No, I like watching bad football, which is why I'm a Jets fan. You think I want to watch something good? Come on, yeah. What's wrong with you?
You would become a fan. It would change, and that's the problem with you guys. Like, but you've already set your brain to saying I can't do.
No, it's not that I can't.
That's a problem. Like you gotta like try this, because this is it's so much more fun and exciting than the NFL. I love the NFL. You see it in the players where it matters so much more. The games it's weird because I know the game's slower, but there's offsets in ability, so it looks so much faster and more exciting than the NFL, that it looks more fun.
I don't have the time to start watching another sport. For example,
give up the Jets, find a college team, and you will be happier.
Well, I haven't been watching a lot of football because I don't need to. But you have to remember one thing. I'm also a diehard Rangers fan. So how much time am I actually going to put into sports? Between my card collecting hobby, which has overtaken my life since certain things happen, and then watching baseball, keeping up with all the news of baseball, then watching hockey, then having a regular job. I mean, when am I going to watch college football? It's just too much.
Yeah.
And then you have basketball, you have the Knicks, which I watch on occasion. Then you have football. I mean, I got enough on my plate. I don't need any more.
I'm just telling you, man, this is God. It's they've hit the nail perfectly on the head. Like they've hit it, and it's right now. This is the most exciting thing I've seen it, because it doesn't matter who's playing. Like, you're locked on to these games.
I've been talking to my really rich friends, trying to find out how I can make money, because the way that I understand it, rich people know other rich people and know how to make other people rich. So I'm worried about that. Once I make that big money that I don't have to worry about, then I'll watch college football. If I had, let's say Corbin Burnes money, I could watch college football.
Well, there you go.
And speaking
start pitching for the Diamondbacks, brother.
There you go. And speaking of Corbin Burnes, he is a new member of the Arizona Diamondbacks. DA, you're in Arizona. What do you think?
I think it's a great signing for the Diamondbacks. I mean, how can you not love that they're bringing in Corbin Burnes and bona fide ace to go along with Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Jordan Montgomery, however that whole situation ends up being. This is a great signing, and Rodriguez. Don't forget about him either. So I love the signing. This is a case of a team who definitely needs pitching, getting the ace out there, the dude on the market that everybody wanted. I love the signing for the Diamondbacks. My only concern is offensively. How are they going to replace some of the guys that they've lost? Christian Walker being a huge piece of this team, bringing in power and stuff. I know they bring in Naylor, but are they answering all of their needs? Did they take enough steps forward to cover the step back that they're taking on offense?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this move. I love Corbin
You're not?
Burnes. No, I'm not. I love Corbin Burnes as a pitcher, but I've had this idea stuck in my head for a few years now about how you build a team. And it's become painfully obvious to me each and every year, the teams that are top 5 in hitting are the ones that end up making it to the playoffs. So I look at this team, and like you said, they lost some offensive punch. How are you going to make that up? You spent your money. I highly doubt that the Diamondbacks are going to go back and spend even more. So you spent your money, you got Corbin Burnes. So what are you going to end up doing going forward? How are you going to replace Christian Walker? I don't know if they can, unless they think that they can trade Jordan Montgomery to somebody and get a bat back, which I don't know if they'll be able to do that. And I'm also willing to give Jordan Montgomery a chance to say, you know what? He had a really crappy year this year. He had a terrible 2024. So why not bring it back, see if he can improve on a 6 ERA going down to 4, and then you could have used that Corbin Burnes money on a Santander, on a Pete Alonso, on somebody like that, and I think you're going to have a better team. That's just my personal stance.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it, is this team basically led Major League Baseball. They were above the Dodgers in a lot of offensive categories last year as a team. They were one of the very, very best in baseball offensively. Corbin Carroll even had a bad first 2 months. So when you're looking at this and saying Corbin Carroll's, if he does what he did after whatever, after May. And when he started getting warm in June and July and all that, and Cartel Marte continuing with like he's been doing, Gurriel doing his thing, Jake McCarthy come on the scene as a stud, Gabby Moreno being able to pick it up and do some really good things with the bat, Pavin Smith, Perdomo, there's some really good stuff here. I just don't know if Josh Naylor at this time is as big of a difference maker as Christian Walker being that middle lineup. I do like the idea of bringing him in, and I don't mind it. You're still adding 36 home runs, 243, a left-handed bat, so you're answering some of those problems. I just don't know if they have. I'm looking at the lineup, and I do love how it's built. It's just you have an opportunity here to take your team to that next level and truly like be the team that's the perfect prototypical get in and win type of situation. Like, you don't have to win the West anymore to really put yourself in a position to be successful. You don't have to beat the Dodgers in 162. You just need to beat them in 5 or 7 game series. And this rotation, if this rotation is healthy, they can go against anybody. And that's the thing. Eduardo Rodriguez is like this guy who had a bad year last year, was unhealthy and coming back from stuff. He's an absolute stud. And if Jordan Montgomery pitches on the level that he pitched 2 years ago, or 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, he's an absolute stud too. I don't think Jordan Montgomery, with everything that's happened, is going to end up being on this team. I think they're going to end up eating some of this money. But at the same time, if he is, dude, you mend those. I still think mend that relationship as much as you can. Maybe put a lot of the blame on the owner and say, hey, dude, like the owner said some shitty things. The owner said that. We're not the owner. We believe in you. We want you here. Let him not like you. You don't have to like the owner. Like there's a whole lot of people that didn't like George Steinbrenner and still played really well for him. You know, the type of thing. And let that be it. But like, I do like this team. I love their chances. And I know you don't like the signing of Corbin Burnes, but I look at this and go, damn, like they just put themselves on a rotation level with the very best teams in baseball. They have a 1-2 punch that go with anybody in baseball. And they've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 punch. That's arguably, like, if you had this rotation in New York, people would be talking about this might be the best Yankee rotation of all time.
Yeah, well, anything that happens in New York is the best of all time, quote unquote.
Well, if you really had this, if you had Zach Gallen, Corbin Burnes, Eduardo Rodriguez, Merrill Kelly, like, you'd be looking at this Yankee team going, they have 0 holes in the rotation. Yeah. But where you look at it and go, all right, well, it's the Diamondbacks. Because the problem is the great equalizer is Chase Field. And you just don't know how Corbin Burnes, in 81 games at home, whatever that ends up working out to, 16 starts, whatever it ends up being at home, how that's going to play out. And that's the only issue here.
What do you think about the amount of money he got? 210 over 6.
Love it. Good for him. Like, he earned it. I think that's a great, appropriate contract for a guy on his level. The 6 years, 2 years, there's an opt-out after 2 years. A lot of the money's backloaded. Biggest contract they've ever given to a pitcher. I love everything about it.
Okay. I thought they overpaid. I would have given him the same amount of money for 7 years. I think it's a little too much.
I think a lot of it being backloaded. I think that's where they're okay with it. And I think they're considering the $10 million signing bonus, right? And they're considering a lot of this as like money that they won't have to be giving out.
Well, I know that you like Corbin Burnes, but I asked you to put together a little list for me. So The list is the top 5 pitchers going into 2025. And do we know if Corbin Burnes is going to be on the list?
Well, we know.
About to find out.
We know if he's going to be on the list.
I do, but let's let all of our watchers and all of our followers find out who's in the top 5. So for number 5, we have Mr. Gilbert from your own old team in Seattle, and this boy's a stud.
Boy's an absolute stud. 3.2 ERA. This is the epitome of strike thrower. This guy doesn't walk anybody. He had 220 punch outs last year, 208 innings, led the league in innings pitched, 37 base on balls. His whip was a .88. Like, this dude throws absolute cheese. Like, look at this. Like, he's throwing cheese, hard pitches left and right, 100-mile-an-hour basically thrower. It's incredible to watch him pitch with the type of command. Like, he's got such amazing stuff. 6th in Cy Young last year. He was an all-star. He doesn't get quite enough credit. Like, though his worst ERA in the big leagues was a 4.6 his rookie year, and then it's been 3.2, 3.7, 3.2. Like, he led the league in starts. He's doing everything and getting better, and it's scary.
Yeah. He's Paul Skeens without Livy Dunn and all the press. He's that good.
Well, that's the scary part, is he really is. And he just didn't come onto the scene the way Skeens did. And that's the thing about it, is like, he's a Skeens, which is weird. Why are we comparing people to Skeens? We should be comparing Skeens to people, right? But that's how good Paul Skeens is. Like, he's like a half a year in, we're already comparing pitchers to him. But he has absolutely amazing stuff. There's not a rotation in baseball that wouldn't be screaming and clawing and trying to kill people to have him on that rotation.
All right, we're going to move on to number 4 right now, a guy that I absolutely love and a guy that I am really, really pissed off that you put at number 4. I thought he should have been higher, and that is former Met, current Philly, and even though he's a Philly, I love him, Zach Wheeler.
Suck it. He's number 4. No, absolutely amazing pitcher. Second in Cy Young in the National League this year. He's been second twice now, top 12 4 times in his career. He MVP votes this last year, All-Star. Ace of that Philly staff, him and Aaron Nola, that 1-2 punch. But Zach Wheeler is absolutely amazing. Again, a guy whose whip was under 1 last year. Hits per 9, led Major League Baseball in hits per 9. 2.57 ERA, because I do care about ERA. It's a fact that it matters. And just like, again, him and Logan Gilbert, these everyone on this list is going to be punching tickets left and right, but he is an amazing pitcher, and he seems the crazy thing is like he got better. He's got 10 years in the big leagues. He's 34 last year, and that was the best season of his career. Arguably, I think there might have been another one in 21, might have been a little bit better, but I actually think last year was such an amazing year. But he just got overshadowed by Chris Sale in that Cy Young candidate. But God, he has been getting better and better and better.
I don't know why when I look at Zach Wheeler, I think about Roy Halladay. Just consistency, keeps getting better. Great stuff. I would have put this guy up at number 2. I mean, he has been so consistent over the last few years since he had those injury issues with the Mets early in his career. I absolutely love this guy. We had the opportunity to talk to him. He's a good guy. He's one of your former teammates with the Mets.
Former teammate with the Mets. When I got drafted by the San Francisco Giants, he was the next pitcher that was a first-round draft pick by the Giants, but it took like years later, like almost like 6-7 years later. And so it's kind of cool. We always had that little history together.
Yep. All right, let's move on to your number 3, and you're absolutely crazy for putting him on this list.
Suck it, everybody. I love it.
Jacob deGrom, the man who can't stay on the field, is somehow better off than Zach Wheeler. You explain this, because I'm not.
Okay, I'm going to say this straight up. This is about who's going to be the best in 2025, not who was the best in 2024. Yes, this dude has had injury issues, like straight up and down. We all know it. But James, when he is on the field and healthy, is he not the best pitcher in the world?
He's the best pitcher I've ever seen, personally.
Yes, best pitcher ever seen in history of Major League Baseball, I think, when he's on that mound healthy. I don't think there's another pitcher that is as good as him ever. I don't know. I've never seen it.
I agree with you. I don't know when he's going to pitch. That's
this year, 2025.
If he pitches this year, there's a good chance he's going to be in that top 5 if he can have 30 starts. Is he going to have 30 starts? No chance in hell. I think
he's going to have 28 to 30 starts. I think he's going to be healthy. I think you're going to go out there and see that Jacob deGrom that the Rangers paid for. And again, this is the problem is you sign him to this contract. You were going to get anything up front at the beginning. Now you're getting him. I think they're going to be so happy with it. I think this is his year to come back and show everybody exactly who he is. Now, I don't think it's going to last, but I think you were going to get that a glimpse of Jacob deGrom's greatness again this year.
I really hope so, because I love watching Jake pitch. Like I said, he's the best pitcher I've ever seen in my lifetime. I don't think it's going to happen. Let's go to your number 2, and here's a guy who you're putting number 2 on the list a little prematurely, and that's Mr. Paul Skeens.
Livy Dunn's boyfriend absolutely has earned his place. I don't think it's premature. I think this guy is an all-around absolute stud. Below 2 ERA last year, did everything. Rookie of the year, had MVP votes, number 3 in Cy Young, All-Star, started All-Star game. I mean, this dude is hitting the ground running, and I don't see a stopping in sight. I think there's an absolute perfect spot for him, and I think this is like where he's going to be. I think he's going to end the year again at the very top, if not considered the very best pitcher in the National League, if not in all of baseball. I don't see where this is going to stop.
And I was actually considering growing a mustache in honor of Paul Skeens. Maybe I can get Livy Dunn. Who knows?
Go for it. Actually, I would like to see you grow a mustache.
You've seen what I look like with a mustache. You've seen my father. That's what I'm going to look like with a mustache.
That is not you yet. I want to see in you. No, but this guy, here's the thing about it. Like, we know how good he is. If he goes out and just does that again, how is he not one of the best pitchers in baseball in the top 5? That's my thing about it, is the only way he wouldn't be top 5 if we believe there's going to be a regression or an injury. And
I just can't put somebody that high on the list after half a season. But you're absolutely right.
More than that, 23 starts. I mean, the league leader, Logan Gilbert, was 33.
Okay,
so he only missed 10 starts off of them. So 2/3 of a season. So it's no longer half. There's a lot of guys that had 25, 26 starts that would be considered a complete season.
Yeah. It's just a little tough. It's a little premature for my liking to put him that high on the list, but I can understand if he stays healthy, he pitches 30 starts, he's probably the best pitcher in baseball. If it wasn't for our number 1 pitcher, Mr. Tarek Skubal of the Tigers.
Of the Tigers. I love that he has basically he's we're talking about a lot of these guys on this list have been getting better, right? Logan Gilbert's been getting better. Paul Skeens, obviously, I think he's going to just continue what he's doing. I don't know if he can get better, and Zach Wheeler's been getting better at this age. But Tariq Skubal went out there, led the league in WAR, led the league in wins, led the league in ERA and strikeouts and ERA plus and fielding independent pitching, Cy Young winner, 7 MVP, All-Star. The fact that I think 7th on MVP is super low. I think he should have had more votes than that, because the way you look at this, this Tigers team, they go to the playoffs and they said, who are you going to start? And they go, all right, Skubal. And then I don't know, Skubal again. Once we get to that's amazing to me. That shows to me that you are an MVP and you should be a lot more considered for the award than what he did get. And he still got 7th as a starting pitcher. And right now, I don't see anybody taking this over if he goes out and just does what he does again. But the thing is, he's pitched 5 years in the big leagues. He's gotten better every year. Yeah. Who knows when this is going to stop? And that's the beauty of this. And that's why he's number 1 for me. Not that he has a Cy Young winner. Chris Sale's a Cy Young winner. He's not on my list because I see him as getting better, where I saw Chris Sale as having a flashback to who he was, where I think that's going to be DeGrom this year. Chris Sale showed it last year at the end of the year, or 2 years ago at the end of the year, and then performed last year. I think that's going to be DeGrom this year, but Skubal, I think, is still improving, and we saw no signs of it slowing down. It's not that he got to the playoffs and then all of a sudden he kind of fizzled out. He's continued with what he was doing.
Look, I said it. If the Yankees played the Tigers in a 7-game series in the playoffs, I don't think the Yankees would have made it to the World Series. I think the Tigers would have won
3, and then you throw enough crap against the wall, something sticks where a couple relievers just shove it up your butt, and Tigers move on.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so that was David's top 5 pitchers going into 2025. If you think he's nuts, please let us know in the comments. You can always tell David why I'm right and he's wrong, despite the fact that he played the game and I never did pass T-ball. But let's move on to some of the free agents that haven't signed as of yet, and we're going to start with my guy in New York, Pete Alonso. David, what the hell is going on over here? The Mets offered him a 3-year, $90 million deal. I think they lowballed him considerably, but there's really no team out there that needs a first baseman anymore. What do you make of all this?
Well, that's the hard part is where is this market right now, right? Who is the one who's going to sign him? Where's it going? There's so many guys that have been kind of filling in. We talked about Josh Naylor already. We talked about Christian Walker was signing with the Astros. Goldschmidt, obviously, in New York. Where's the market? Is it just the Mets now? Is there anybody else out there? There might be I think the Blue Jays would still be a great spot for him. I think there's a lot of landing places. What's crazy to me? Okay, this is what I saw. So what's nuts to me is that nobody since he has been in the league, he's had the 2nd most games played. Okay. He's had the 2nd most home runs in that period too, since 2019. Aaron Judge has hit more home runs, and Marcus Semien is the only one to play more regular season games than him. So what the hell are these teams looking for? And why do you think that this is only a $30 million player over 3 years? You're like, I get it, $30 million player, great, but that should be a 5-year, 6-year contract. I don't understand where people are seeing this regression. Yes, he had 240, but the dude still came back and hit 34 home runs, had 800 OPS, like he did, and that's his down season. But we're somehow believing that these other players are going to outperform him. Like, what metric has he been not like performing? And that's where, like, a lot of Mets fans, I believe, like, this was the marketing genius of the Mets at the beginning of the year, talking about how bad of a season he's having and how he's down year and how this is the worst timing for it and how he is nothing. But then at the end of the year, you look at his numbers, you're like, wow, like, this dude legit performed. And he performed the same as everybody else on the team, which was crappy early and then amazing since June. He did the same thing as every single Met on that team, but like Lindor, like, we're giving him all the credit in the world for being all world and everything and MVP votes up and down. But like Alonso was right there with him performing. And we just want to trash him because it was a free agent year. And now all these Mets fans are trashing him. I think he got lowballed. But I think the Mets understood the market and they don't have to highball him.
You know what I'm worried about, David? I look at this whole situation with the Mets and with Alonso, and I see that they're lowballing him. And I'm wondering, and I don't know, this is pure speculation, because I don't have my hooks in the Mets. Like, I don't know anybody in there in that team. I just feel like there might be something behind the scenes that we don't know. Maybe he's a bad clubhouse guy. I've never heard anything like that. Maybe Stearns doesn't like him. I don't know. There's just something more to this story that I cannot figure out why he's not a Met yet. He wants to be a Met. It's not an exorbitant amount of money. We're not talking about $400 million. Now, I don't think he's a $200 million player either right now at this age, but he should be getting 150 over 5 years. There's no reason why he shouldn't. But this just seems like Steve Cohen is saying, hey, you don't have any other options. If somebody comes to you, has a better deal, then bring it to us and we'll sign you. I think Boris is waiting for that big deal. It could be the San Francisco Giants. I am wondering if maybe, you're going to think I'm crazy, what about the, I was going to say Oakland, what about the former Oakland A's, the A's baseball club, whatever you want to call them now? They need to spend money. What do you think about them maybe signing him to a 1-year deal, pillow contract for a big AAV for 1 year?
That's interesting. And I would have a hard time with him at 30. You're taking a strong chance on yourself. I don't get me wrong. I've got no issue with what the A's considering that, right? Saunders team is their guy, a rookie, just like almost everybody on that roster, like outside of Gio Urshela, who they signed, the next most player with the most time in that top, and the lineup has 4 years of service time, so it's crazy. But I've got no problem with the A's doing that, with the A's going out there and throwing a money number out there. And I've got no problem with him believing in himself and taking that, because like I would also be looking at this team and saying, okay, if I'm DH or I'm first base of this team, I got Rooker there, I got Butler there. I'm sitting here now, Gio Urshela, who I love him as a player. I think he's a great player. A little undervalued because he just needs to hit a little bit more than what he's done.
Yeah.
Wayne Lears, there's JJ Bleday. There's guys in this lineup that are going to be on base, and they're young and they're getting better. I think he could have a year there that would blow people away and go, okay, like this is like something you can continue, because the money that he's wanting, unless it's just crazy numbers, like to me, he's a 5-year, $30 million a year guy.
Yeah,
like easy up and down. And the fact that they only want to pay to the 33-year season is nuts to me. And honestly, to him, I might want to take that and go back and take a 3-year, $90 million deal and say, okay, after 3 years, like I still got, like if I keep throwing up, like the worst home runs he's ever had in his career was 34.
Yeah.
And oh my God, everyone is freaking out. Like he still hit 240, which is his third highest batting average of his career, fourth highest. Like something he had 2 years worse. Like he had 46 home runs and 217 last year. We all thought that was an amazing year.
Mm-hmm.
or 2 years ago. That was an amazing year. Everybody talked about how great he's still doing amazing. Well, you know what? He had 23 points higher this year.
I just think it's the combination of the dad bod where he just doesn't look like an athlete long term.
Dude, he looks like a man. Screw that. He looks like a man.
I'm with you. I'm not going to insult anybody's body, but I'm just telling you what I think some of these executives are looking at. I'm trying to make some sort of excuse for the executives. I can't come up with anything, but they are saying that the biggest threat to the Mets to getting Alonso back would be the San Francisco Giants. They've been trying to throw around money for a while. Nobody seems to want it. You look at them and you look at the Blue Jays, nobody wants their money for some strange reason. I think if Alonso doesn't stay with the Mets, he's going to San Francisco, your former team, and that's about that.
How much do you think, and people have said this and they got trashed in the media. They got absolute trash. How much do you think the actual city of San Francisco has to do with this? Like Pearsall, like the wide receiver of the 49ers literally got shot. And no one talked about it. No one talked about how this dude walking down the downtown got shot. And like, we're just going to like blow us over as if like the city's totally fine and safe. Like players have hinted at it, that there are legit problems with that city, that they don't want to play there 24/7. They're fine playing for the organization, just not for the city. Now, how much do you think that has to play with a San Francisco type of scenario? Because it's something to really consider. At some point, we got to talk about.
Listen, if guys are willing to go to Detroit, then they should be willing to go to San Francisco. I mean, you're going to get shot in Detroit too. I mean, hell, New York is.
But how many guys are? Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good point, and I get it. It's just I think the idea of San Francisco is it's a little bit more of supposed to be a friendlier city, walk around and enjoy the city. Detroit's never been that city like in a long time. That's enjoy the city, like it's a get in and get out type of thing.
Right.
Like San Francisco is supposed to be this like, hey, like the city by the bay, this welcoming city to everybody come in, and San Francisco 49er player got shot. Like
it also has to do with the taxes in California. I think that's a bigger issue than the safety. I mean, hell, if you're Pete Alonso and somebody just gave you $100 million, I think you can hire bodyguards. I think you can get a great security system at your house. You know, I don't think the safety is the problem.
I think if they sit down there, if they bring in Pete Alonso, if San Francisco brings in Pete Alonso, now you're sitting at Adames and Alonso in the middle of that lineup. I'm looking at this lineup now going like, all right, we got Chapman, got Adames, got Alonso, and now it's like, all right, like I can put this lineup together and go, okay, do I think he's going to have 34 home runs anymore? No, hell no. That number is going to drop immediately to 22, but his doubles are going to double as well. And he's going to have other numbers that are going to pop through the roof and you go, okay, like maybe his RBIs actually jump up a little bit because there's some other things like Jung-Hoo Lee, like this dude's pretty good. Like I like what I saw there. You're going to have, like, you might actually have a team together. So if I'm sitting there, if I'm the San Francisco Giants, I think I dodged a bullet on Carlos Correa. Like, that was awesome. That, like, let's talk about where they are now, like with Willy Adames versus Carlos Correa. Like,
oh my God,
how much of a better sign, better money, guarantee stuff versus like what we saw with now Carlos Correa now is having leg issues, which is what the doctor in San Francisco said, like, hey, like, I'm not going to agree with this contract. Like, I get it. Judge would not be who Aaron Judge is right now if he was in San Francisco. He just won't be. Like, he's borderline Hall of Famer right now. His numbers in San Francisco would have gone down where it would have hurt him. I don't think Pete Alonso's career is on the trajectory as Judge. So I think it's not going to hurt him the same way. I think he can have 22 home runs for the rest of his career and have a massive impact in San Francisco.
Okay, gun to your head. Any chance that Pete doesn't return to the Mets?
It's going to be very hard for him to go back to a deal and expect them to give him 90 for 3. He already said no. So to me, gun to my head, I think he goes somewhere else.
I bet you anything. If gun to my head, he's going to end up signing a 4-year, $110 million deal with the Mets around there. He'll get the extra year.
If they can change it, this is why I said, like, if they can change the terms of the deal, I don't think he can. I don't think the Mets would let him come back to the 3-year, $90 million deal. I think they're going to tell him to fuck off and give him less money and an extra year. And if I'm the Mets, I'm doing that deal a million times over. 110 for 4 years. I am screaming up and down to David Stern, sign him, because your offense right now has to have, like, you got to get another dude. You got to get a couple dudes. Like, you're not done, and your rotation is really ho hum right now, and that bullpen is, let's hope. And like, you got a couple guys in your lineup. All right, we got 2 guys for sure, but you need somebody else. You've got 2 great players. Like, I need more.
I think what's holding it up the most is the fact that there is a guy that could replace him that is still available, and that's Anthony Santander. Hit 40-plus home runs. He's still unsigned. The Mets, they could kind of move away from Starlin Marte if they want. The money's not that bad. So if you bring in Santander and then you go with one of the young guys at first base for the Mets, that might be the possibility. Why is Santander still available? Why hasn't he gone back to the Orioles? Where are they going to come up with the 40 home runs that he's going to give up? I don't understand. This guy is good. He should be signed already.
What's crazy to me is, like, we haven't heard really much of what he's looking for, right? Like, what is, like, that's the one, he's the one player where I haven't really heard what are his numbers. Like, what is, like, a lot of other players, like, we sit back and we go, okay, like, we kind of know what Pete's numbers are, and that's where everybody's kind of argued, like, what is his value, this, and like Soto, like, we're up and down trying to figure out his numbers. I have yet heard anything from a Santander camp of saying what he's looking for, what his expectations are, and I don't know, like, what are teams scared off of him, right? So he's a player that I would be signing in a heartbeat, because every time I look at him every year, he seems to be getting better.
Yeah, and the big rumor is that the Angels are the front runner to sign him, which is kind of crazy. I don't know what to think of that about the Angels, quite frankly. Somebody's going to end up signing this guy, and they're going to get a great player for a good deal.
Yeah, and the one thing you have to look at, and let's not forget this, is the Angels have done okay, let me put this. How do I put this? The Angels have done an amazing job of trying to compete. They have been consistently out there on the market trying to add players to their team, and at the same time reinventing themselves. So let's not forget 2 years ago when they had Shohei Ohtani, the unicorn, greatest player in the world. He goes out there and gets hurt and ends up the season on the DL. Like, going into free agency, everybody's sitting there like, why didn't they trade him? Why didn't they trade him? Why didn't they trade him? I look at that and say, like, that was, wow, I would have tried to trade him if I'm the GM. He probably made the Angels more money still being on the team and not playing. And being on that team by selling tickets or selling merch and selling, you don't know the type of advertising deals, marketing deals that they had in place where they couldn't trade him. I guarantee you they sat there and said, we'll make more money not trading him than we'll ever make by trading him, even by getting those prospects.
I guarantee you Artie Moreno thought, if I let him go, there's no chance he's going to come back to the Angels. If I keep him, absolutely, I still have him in the building, and maybe I can keep him. I think that's the reason they didn't trade him.
I think there was a lot to play there, a lot more than you just trade him and hope for the best. But let's not forget, this team has gone out and they've tried to fill their roster. They've tried to find the right players. They just haven't found the right match. It wasn't long ago, 2 years ago, where we sat there and looked at this team and said, I thought this was a playoff contending team. I thought they had a rotation that was they went out there and got Anderson, and that was a big sign in the offseason, Tyler Anderson from the Dodgers, and we thought that was going to be able to compete. I mean, shit, let's not forget the dude had a 3.8 ERA last year. Like, if you would have done that 2 years ago, we would have said back going like, all right, dude, like, they can compete. They went out and got Kikuchi this year. They signed for Jorge Soler. Like, they still have Trout. That's they're big. The Angels' problem isn't that they've gone out and got players. The Angels' problem is that Mike Trout's been hurt, Ohtani got hurt and then signed for the world, and then Anthony Rendon, who was one of the greatest players in baseball, got hurt and has been just a giant bag of
Stop.
soft rice, right?
Stop.
Like mush.
Stop. It's not
Right,
that he
like,
got
but
hurt.
that's the Angels' problem. It isn't that
Right.
they haven't spent money, and it isn't that they've invested in their team. They're going for it. So to me, hearing Santander to the Angels isn't like this shocker. I actually sit there and I'm going to butcher the name, Perry Manasian.
Perry Manassian. Yeah.
Perry Manasian. I know I mess it up every single time. It's like I think the right way to say it's the wrong way. Perry Manasian, like he has gone out and made great trades, brought up really good minor leaguers. Like Neto is a stud. Hoppy could be an absolute stud on this team. Like
Yeah.
I like Ward. Ruggiano, like I think that was an incredible trade when they brought him in, and they still have some of these players. It's just they have so much money locked into Trout and Rendon, who are just never on the field. That's the problem when we looked at the Yankees and said, what is their problem? It's Stanton was their problem. Well, all of a sudden we're going, oh, Stanton's like the best thing in the world. Yay,
Yeah.
like great deal. Like, but we used to, like 2 years ago, we sat back and go, shit, he's going to screw this entire organization.
Yep.
And now we're like, oh, well, that if Anthony Rendon went and actually did Anthony Rendon stuff, sorry, and if Anthony Rendon would went back to like who he was a couple years ago and actually just be healthy,
yeah,
we're looking at this Angels team going like, shit, heads up, because I think they're better. I think that lineup right now, healthy, is better than the Mariners. I would take this Angels lineup day in, day out over the Mariners lineup.
If it's healthy, correct. But let's get back to Rendon. Rendon, Jesus.
Santander.
Let's get back to Santander for a second. This guy belongs in the AL East because there's two teams that could really use him. Number one, the team that is about to lose him, the Orioles. Yes. And in my opinion, you might have one more year with Vlad. You might have 10. But why not bring in Rendon, take some of that, and say, hey, you know what? We can sneak into a wild card spot. Maybe we even win the division. And then if we have Santander over there who's doing well, maybe we can convince Vladdy to stay.
So here's the problem. Do you think the reason, okay, we talked about the San Francisco and what might be stopping players from signing with San Francisco, right? Let alone, I don't believe in the farm system, whatever. There's a lot of reasons.
Right.
Blue Jays.
Yes.
Do you think the reason people aren't signing with the Blue Jays are two things? One, the farm system right now really hasn't been producing anything. And two, the fact that Vladdy's not signed is why players aren't signing there. Like, I guarantee you, if Vladdy was signed there, Juan Soto would have considered them a lot differently. And I think other free agents would look at that team saying, okay, I can guarantee Vladdy's in this lineup, I'll sign here. Like I get it, Santander's not in the market to sit there and call his own shots. He's not a Soto in the marketplace. He's not a Snell or Burnes that can probably name his price and do what he wants. Right. And he can't manipulate the market. But at the same time, like, why would I want to? If I'm a big money guy, why am I going to sign with the Blue Jays when their best player is not even going to be guaranteed there after this year?
You add that, you add the culture shock of moving to a new country, you add the taxes, which is a huge problem. Yeah, I can understand why people aren't going to Toronto, but if you're Santander, like you said, he's not the guy who's going to have 10, 15 offers. He's going to be able to pick any team he wants. If Toronto gave him a good enough contract, I think he would go and he would be very, very happy there.
Very happy and very productive. Trust me, I think he should be there, and I think people like Toronto's one of the best places to play. Incredible city. Do it in a heartbeat because it's an incredible place to play there, and you're playing for a country. That's the coolest thing in the world. You're playing for your country. It's just, I do think there's questions there about Vladdy and the question of, if I'm going to spend all my time here, is the other superstar that's in this locker room going to be here after this year? And I think superstars, that might stop them from signing there. I still don't understand why Vladdy didn't get signed as a 18-year-old to a 200. Like, think about this. If at 18 years old, the Blue Jays signed Vladdy to a 10-year, $200 million deal, that would be the greatest contract in Major League Baseball history right now. But I guarantee you at the time, they sat back and were scared to give that type of money out.
Well, and there's one big difference. Vladdy probably thought to himself, you know what, I can gamble on myself, because at the end of the day, if Vladdy never plays another game of baseball in his career and never made $1 playing baseball, he still has a very rich father. He comes from a rich family now.
No one ever thinks about that. You think about that. No one
I do.
No one else thinks about that.
Well, you
always go like, oh, like he's got a rich dad, he's going to be fine. No, he wants to do it. Vladdy doesn't get a penny of dad's money. He's thinking about how do I get the most money for myself? And if I'm Vladdy and I'm seeing the marketplace, I saw what happened to Ohtani, I'm seeing now what happened to Judge, I'm doing exactly what Vladdy's doing. I'm waiting. It's just like, okay, how much money did Judge sign for?
360.
Okay. That was like, holy shit type of money. Like, correct. Like Bobby Witt Jr. Like these, like we looked at Bobby Witt Jr. contract and went, holy shit, that's a lot of money. Now we're looking at this and going, Jesus, the Yankees got a deal. Wow, the Royals have one of the best deals in baseball ever. But when they signed it, we went, oh shit, that's a lot of money.
Right.
Now we're going like, dude, this marketplace changed. If this was 5 years ago, and then they're sitting there with Vladdy Jr. in the minor leagues in 2019, 2018, if they would have signed him for $200 million, we would have all gone, oh my God.
Yeah.
Right? Like down in San Diego with the shortstop. Oh my God.
Fernando Tatis.
Tatis Jr., where you're going, oh, wow, that's a huge contract. That's a gamble, man. That's a gamble. And now we're going like, dude, that's it. Like, that's all. That's a deal. And so we're like, how that, like, he was a Blue Jay guy. He was an organizational player. You knew him. Everybody knew him. The world knew him. If they would have committed $200 million at the time, we'd be looking at that right now going, dude, they get 6 more years of him. Holy crap.
Look, I wasn't saying that he's going to take his father's money, but when you have a dad who played in Major League Baseball, who knows how contracts work, I can guarantee you, Big Vladdy said to him, just stay the course. You're good enough.
I guarantee you had nothing to do with it. I think it was just a matter of the Blue Jays probably never fronted the money that it would have taken to sign a superstar at 18, at 19. I don't think the Blue Jays ever thought. I'll be honest, from being in that organization, I don't think they approached him with a. I think they approached him. I don't think they ever approached him with the type of number like seeing where his numbers were going to go, and with a number that Vladdy and Vladdy's dad would have ever really sat down and considered. I think they probably went to him for like $100 million, 100, and said, okay, like we'll sign a 10-year, $100 million contract.
They threw in a
like in all reality, like they would have. Like the union now would have looked back at that deal and said, like, can we change this? Like, this is such a crazy contract. Where if they would have said $200 million, I think they would have signed it on the dotted line and never even looked back. And we would all be looking at that deal and thinking that was the steal of a century.
One more free agent I want to talk about before we wrap up the show, and that is Mr. Alex Bregman, the former Houston Astro. And from all accounts, it looks like he might be going to the Detroit Tigers. Yes, he is at risk of getting shot every time he leaves the stadium.
I don't know where. Do you really think he's going to be a Tiger?
Yeah, I think the Astros just put a line in the sand that said, hey, this is our offer to you. We're not going anymore. You want to go somewhere else, go for it, see who's going to give you the money, but this is how we're sticking to our guns with this. And I think Bregman thinks that he's worth more. Personally, I would take the money that the Astros offered.
If I'm him, I understand him wanting to play the market, and I get if I'm the Astros wanting to bring him in. But he has not been the same player he was in the past.
You mean the Tigers bringing him in?
What did you say?
You said you understand why the Tigers would be bringing him in, right?
Yes. That's sorry. Did I say something else?
You said
I understand. I understand why the Tigers would bring him in 100%. The Tigers need offense. They need production. They need guys. I don't think Bregman. I don't think Bregman's the difference maker that he would have been if they would have had him like 2 years ago. And I don't think the marketplace has shifted with him a little bit. And so if I'm him, if I'm the Astros, I want him to be an Astro. I want him to finish. I would want to finish my career as an Astro. And I don't see him in another uniform. But I get why other teams would bring him in. It's just it's for the amount of money, right? It's just the right amount of money. And that's my only thing. And I don't, if I'm the Tigers, with what I just accomplished, I don't want to overpay for production I'm not going to get. I would rather overpay for, like, this might be a good place. If I'm sitting there, I'm Pete Alonso, and I'm like, if I'm the Tigers, I might want to bring a Pete Alonso in. I know they got Colt Keith, like, young first baseman,
Torkelson.
Torkelson, 100%. They got Torkelson there. I love Torkelson, but he's a guy I might bring in. I might consider him. I might consider an Alonso if I can get him in there.
Yeah. When I look at Bregman, all I'm thinking about is a guy like George Springer. I'm looking at Dansby Swanson, a very good player that can help me, but is on the downswing, who's going to get paid, but isn't going to get paid superstar money. I think he still thinks that he is a top-tier superstar.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what his representatives think of him.
100%. And I get it. I'm looking, and if I'm sitting out there looking at any third baseman on the market, like, I'm it. Like, I'm it. I am the market.
Yeah.
And so that's that. I understand why, and he's in that place. And again, he had an 8.6 WAR. Like, that's incredible. I just don't think at 31 people believe the numbers are going to improve.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a decline happening. I don't think it's a huge fall off. Again, like, I get it. I'm talking a little crap here about him. I don't mean to be talking crap. I just think of this from a front office standpoint. I don't think those numbers are I don't even think they're going to stay steady. I think they're going to decline. So from a financial standpoint, I have to look at those numbers and say, okay, in 3 years, where are his numbers going to be? Because I can't pay for 29-year-old Bregman. I'm paying for 32-year-old Bregman. And like, what are his numbers going to be? And I have to pay according to that. And that's where I think a lot of teams are stepping back on, like, God, the numbers he wants or what he deserves, but not what he's going to be. And that's the only scary part.
You know, I listen to MLB Network Radio a lot. I listen to a lot of sports radio, and I hear a lot of people saying, well, Bregman deserves this. Look at what he's done. You guys got to remember, if you're a fan and you're thinking about contracts, you got to remember, it's not what the player has done. You're paying him for what he's going to be. If you're going to pay a player for what he's done, Alonso's going to get $300 million. But they're not. They're talking about what he's going to be in the future. And the same thing goes for Bregman. Is he a $30 million a year player? Maybe this year, maybe. But you're going to get that decline. So he's going to be worth 20 the year after that, 15 the year after that. He's not that guy anymore. Sorry.
Yeah. And I just don't see, I don't see the numbers getting a lot better. So he had a 4.1 WAR, but like, I just don't see, again, like, home runs have stayed steady. Home runs have absolutely stayed steady. RBIs dropped big time last year, but like, I don't see those secondary numbers like just improving. Again, he Gold Glover last year. He's a great player. I just don't see him having like, he had a couple years that were just incredible.
Yeah.
And ever since then, like, he's been good. So pay him for being good. And I pay him for expect 24, 25 home runs, expect 80 to 90 RBIs, expect a 250, 260 average, and pay him for that. But I'm not going to pay like we're looking at a guy, and we're talking about Pete Alonso. Like, I know they're first and third baseman, but like Alonso, like, we're unwilling to pay him more than $30 million a year. And the dude had 34 home runs, and that's the worst he's ever done.
Yeah.
Like 26 is right in line. Like, his best season was 41 and then 31 and then nothing above 26. Like, Alonso's worst was 34, and we're looking at an average that comparison and RBIs that are very comparable, and we're talking crap about Alonso, and like, what we're trying to talk up Bregman. It's like, okay, sometimes we just got to look at it and say these are the same thing.
Yeah, and if Alonso kept going, he could be on the Mount Rushmore of the Mets. There's no way Bregman's going to ever be on the Mount Rushmore of the Astros. And with that being said, we're going to introduce a new segment that we are starting this week. Each and every week, we are going to give you the Mount Rushmore for each particular team in Major League Baseball. And this week, we're going to start alphabetically with the Arizona Diamondbacks.
I was wondering if that's how you picked it. As like, is it Arizona Diamondbacks, or just because I'm down in Arizona, you just want to go for it?
You could have asked, but yes, it's alphabetically.
Alphabetical. Okay.
Right. So David came up with his 4 players for the Mount Rushmore. David, who is your number 1 Mount Rushmore player for the Arizona Diamondbacks?
Number 1. I just have my Mount Rushmore, right? The Mount Rushmore doesn't have like who's the best president. Just these are the top 4. Okay, I don't want to number these here because if I numbered them, I think people would like, sit back. If you're not a Diamondback player person, like you wouldn't understand why Luis Gonzalez would be number one. But Luis Gonzalez is number one.
Right, and one rule, by the way, you cannot be on a Mount Rushmore for multiple teams.
Yes, because there's going to be a couple players on here that could be on Mount Rushmores for other teams, especially the Diamondbacks, because they've been a place where they brought players in and they did amazingly well. But Luis Gonzalez, to me, he is the King Kong of all Diamondbacks. He's if you're down here, he is the guy that everybody represents with the organization. Everyone knows him. What he did when he came to this organization just absolutely changed it. And he was his very best player when he was here. That 2001 season, the World Series championship team, he was third in MVP, Silver Slugger, All-Star, absolutely changed his entire career once he got down here. 57 home runs in 2001. I'm not saying why, I'm just saying he hit it. But in all reality, the deal is like he was a huge part of that team. But that winning World Series winning hit against Mariano Rivera to walk off, he is in Diamondback lore forever. He is enshrined on that Mount Rushmore.
And just getting a hit off of Mariano in the World Series should put you on a Mount Rushmore because nobody does it. And have you had any interaction with Luis in your career?
Yes, absolutely. Not like as a player, no. But like when I see him around, I'll be at Diamondbacks games. I see him. I was there for a Perfect Game event, talked to him for a little bit. Great guy. Again, he's a guy, when you're down here and you're around the Diamondbacks, you can't miss him. He's here. He's always here.
And I was going to say, the reason I asked is because from all the interactions that I've had with him, couldn't be a nicer guy.
Great guy. And again, like everybody knows him. Everybody's around. Like he is Mr. Diamondback.
There you go. All right, David, who do you have for your number 2 player on Mount Rushmore for the Diamondbacks?
I'm going to do this. I did number 2 and number 3 a combined deal because they were a combined deal when they were here. Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling. But we'll talk about Randy Johnson first. This dude, I mean, come on. Like, what do you got to say about Big Unit? Like this guy is, when he came, again, obviously he came here. Everyone knew him. He came to Montreal. He spent some time in Montreal. Seattle, he made his name for himself, right? He basically became a Hall of Fame candidate with Seattle. Then he goes to Houston, comes here to the Diamondbacks, and became a Hall of Famer. This is where he really cemented himself as that next level. He was really, really good and dominant with the Seattle Mariners, and he became a Hall of Famer with the Diamondbacks. And I mean, you go back to the incident with the bird and hitting the bird and blowing it up. You go like he won 4 consecutive Cy Young awards while he's here in the Diamondbacks. Absolutely incredible run when he was here and unhittable.
Yeah. I was talking earlier about Jacob deGrom and how he's the best pitcher I've ever seen. Well, if you're ranking those best pitchers I've ever seen in my lifetime, it would be Randy Johnson and Pedro right after those guys. Randy Johnson was just ridiculous. There was nothing he couldn't do on the mound. And then what he did in 2001 when they won the World Series, coming out of the pen on short rest to win that, absolutely incredible. Great ball player. Didn't do it in New York, and a lot of people look back on that and say, wow, I can't believe he couldn't handle the pressure in New York. But he was a little older.
He was 42 years old.
I agree.
Like, he was 42 years old, and that was the worst decision he ever made. It had nothing to do with the pressure of New York. They were absolute douchebag assholes to him, and they're on the street crowding him, putting cameras in his face. And he's the problem with Randy Johnson is like that just doesn't fit his personality, and you wouldn't have ever thrown a camera in Zach Greinke's face because you knew like he wasn't able to handle it.
Right.
Like it's not that they weren't good. Randy Johnson pitched for the Yankees when he was 33. He would have like been the greatest Yankee of all time. Yeah. It's just like he's 42, 41. And again, like he still had a 5.8 WAR. He would have led the league or been second in the league this year in WAR if he was and that was 42 years old. It was 17 wins. He had 2 years of 17 wins as a Yankee. Both years, 17 wins. Like he would literally be out pitching Garrett Cole. Yeah. And yet he couldn't handle it. Like it's such bullshit.
I agree. All right, let's
The,
move
the
on to
dude had
his.
34 wins in 2 seasons. He was 34-19. And
Right,
the
but
whole idea is that he couldn't handle New York. Like he was better than Randy Johnson. I'm sorry, Roger Clemens probably, like numbers wise, and he was 42, 43.
but
Like
that's
it's
not what the fans and what the Yankees
right because he
expected.
got angry at some reporters who put a camera in his face while he's trying to walk down the street. Like that dude should have gotten punched in the face.
You
And
didn't
everyone
try
got
that.
mad at him for doing what everybody would have wanted to do to the guy.
All right, let's move on to somebody that we have spoken to many, many times, somebody that we happen to like very much, but isn't the most popular around the world, and that's his partner in crime with the Arizona Diamondbacks, Curt Schilling.
The only dude that might have been better in 2001 than Randy Johnson was Curt Schilling, and they were on the same rotation together. 22 wins, 256 innings pitched. He was number 2 in Cy Young in 2 years back to back to Randy Johnson, who was number 1 in Cy Young. Imagine that being number 1 and number 2 and Cy Young on your rotation for 2 years in a row. He had 23 wins in 2003.
Oh, come on, Dave. Wins don't count. You know that. It doesn't mean anything.
Dude, 23 wins in 2002, and he was second place.
That's
ridiculous. To Randy Johnson at 24. But you know what? He had 22 wins in 2001, which was first place. Second place was Randy Johnson. Like, absolutely incredible, dominant pitcher. And for as good as he was, like, his numbers are Hall of Fame worthy. But he might be one of the best pitchers in the postseason in Major League history. And that's the thing about him. Like, he's got 216 wins. Like, I want to compare his numbers to CC. Like, we're throwing CC out there as this surefire Hall of Famer no matter what thing. I want to compare Curt Schilling to CC. And I think Curt Schilling probably has him on a lot of different things. Plus, Curt Schilling, for everything CC was in the playoffs, Curt Schilling was more. Like, way more.
Let's just do it simply. If you had the opportunity to have for their whole career, Curt Schilling or CC, who do you want?
Curt Schilling.
I'll take Curt Schilling.
He threw 15 CGs one year, and Blake Snell was bragging about throwing 1. Yeah. Like our great achievement pitcher right these days, like Cy Young winner, was bragging about throwing a CG. He threw 15 in 1 year. Like, go look at his baseball reference page and count the number of black marks like on there, which is the league leader. And like, he was the league leader in strikeouts to walk ratio, which is a monster stat for pitchers, 6 times. Sorry, 5 times. Like this, his numbers are crazy. And he was so good. Like, he had 15 CGs for the Phillies in 98, and they only had 15 wins.
I wonder how many of those were against the Mets.
That'd be 30 wins in today's game. He had 35 starts. Who does that? 32
Nobody.
led the 33 or 32 led the league, or 33 led the league. Like, he made 2 more starts.
Yeah, boy was an absolute beast. And guys, if all you know Curt Schilling for is his political views, go back and watch him pitch. Go back and look at his stats. The guy was an animal. Yeah. All right, David, who's your last guy on your Mount Rushmore? Or do you want to put in your 2 should have been?
First one's out.
First one out.
Oh, let me go. Okay, so what I did was I did Mount Rushmore, and then I did first man out, and then I did like the next guy that could be. Okay, so my first man out, Brandon Webb.
Love Brandon Webb, both as a human being and as a pitcher.
Yes, he is the epitome of career cut short. So the dude played, I'm going to take away his last year. So he played 6 years in Major League Baseball. Okay. The last year he was totally hurt, only made 1 start. 6 seasons. He was 3rd in Rookie of the Year, won the Cy Young, number 2 in Cy Young, number 2 in Cy Young. Like, for the years, he's literally one of the best pitchers in baseball. He had 14 wins, 16 wins, 22 wins, 18 wins. He led the league in WAR a year, led the league in wins 2 years. Game start, he had 34 game start 1 year. His 4 CGs led the league. Like, the amount of things he did while he was healthy was absolutely incredible. It's just that he gave his arm. He gave his arm for it, and they still recognize him here as being one of the greats, which he was. But he was Tim Lincecum before Tim Lincecum. He didn't have the Lincecum stuff. He was a big sinker baller, but he was a bowling ball sinker baller. But he was Tim Lincecum, and like, he was like frying pan hot, like as hot as quick as he could, but he burned out so fast too.
And out of all the interviews that we've ever done, I would say that other than Junior, when we did 90 minutes with Junior, that Brandon Webb was my favorite interview that we did. I don't know why. He was just a great interview.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome on TV. He's awesome on radio. He does stuff down here with the Diamondbacks.
We got to get him on again.
So close to being so great, but it's crazy. Like his best, like he was for 3 years one of the best pitcher in baseball. And that's what Randy Johnson and like Curt Schilling were while they were here too. Yep. It's just that those guys did it for an extended period of time, especially Randy Johnson. But like, if you just give him 5 more years, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Like even if he's just average for 5 more years, like he's borderline Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He was 4 years away from having a Felix Hernandez career, and he was probably 6-7 years away from having a Hall of Fame career.
Agreed. And then you have one guy who could push his way into Mount Rushmore. Who would that be?
This one was hard. This one was really hard for me. It's like the next guy. So I wanted to find a guy on the roster who could be the next man up into there. And there's a couple guys that that could be with the Diamondbacks, but I could tell Marte.
Yeah. I mean, he was a strong MVP contender this past season, despite the fact that he didn't get nearly as much love as other guys did. Great player, and yeah, not on the Mount Rushmore, but pretty damn good.
36 home runs, 292 average. He had an OPS of 932, third in MVP. He was an all-star, silver slugger, almost a 7 WAR. But again, like he has hit gold here in Arizona, and you watch how the organization treats him. Will Velo sees him in the locker room. You see how he interacts with everybody. He is that team. He has put them on his shoulder and just ran with it last year. Corbin Carroll is also, I would say, like Corbin Carroll has more of the name recognition here because like he hit the ground running, like literally.
Yeah.
But like Ketel Marte has like continued to improve, or Corbin Carroll's kind of had a little struggle last year, where Ketel Marte, if he just does what he's done and does it for 2 more years, like he's gonna move he might move my last player on that Rushmore off and take a place.
And who is that last player?
Paul Goldschmidt.
Goldie. the new Yankee.
New Yankee. I mean, God, he here as a Diamondback, he was so good. So good. And if the Yankees get any bit of him like what he was here, and I had to watch him against him, and I've been watching him now for years, analyzing him. This dude can just flat out hit. He has an MVP under his belt, but when he was here with the Diamondbacks, he was MVP number 2 twice, 36 home run season, 33 home run season, 125 RBIs 1 year. He OPS of over 1,000. Like it's just averaging like in around like 900 on OPS when he was here as a Diamondback. Gold Glove defender, like really I don't want to say gold, like he's a Gold Glover, but he was really underrated because like his size, you just don't think like he just looks big and kind of clunky or whatever. You know, It doesn't look smooth when he does that stuff at first base. But the problem is like he actually is so smooth that he looks slow and whatever, right? Like if he was smaller and faster, you'd be like, oh wow, he's incredible. Where he's just kind of big and just kind of gets there, you don't realize like, oh, he's always there and he always makes the play.
When I look at Goldschmidt, I don't know why I think about the Diamondbacks version of Evan Longoria. He was to the Diamondbacks.
Similar.
Yeah, they're just a similar player.
He's just a lot bigger. He's a lot bigger of a guy and a little bit more home run power. Like Evan kind of did everything in third baseman, but like if you could at Evan Longoria and you just gave him more size, he's Paul Goldschmidt.
Right.
The swings are crazy. That's a really crazy like similarity on their swings. Like now I'm watching his video right now. I'm like, that is Evan Longoria, just bigger.
Yeah, and by the way, if you're waiting for us to get to Tampa Bay for their Mount Rushmore, Longoria will be up there. FYI.
I'm guessing he's going to be on that list.
I think it's impossible for him not to be there.
I don't know what has to happen, but maybe a couple guys from like now have like the greatest season of all time. I don't know, but he'll be on that list.
Yeah. Absolutely. Dave, I had a lot of fun with this show today. This is a good one. We got to talk about the Mount Rushmore. We got to see your insane top 5 pitchers. We got to talk about my favorite things, contracts. And I got a little credit for your Christmas present. So I like it. I'm good.
Well, you killed it. And mine's in the mail. Mine's coming. So
I'm not worried about it. I'm just glad that the boys like their presents. That's all that matters to me.
Yeah, of course they did. But thank you.
You know what by the way, you know what I realized the other day? What a greedy son of a bitch you are. You named your kids the way that you did, so that way if they make the major leagues, you're still number 1 in the encyclopedia.
Did you just realize that?
I realized it the other day. I'm like, oh, if JD makes it into the baseball encyclopedia one day, he'll be, oh, wait, no, David Allen Aardsma is still going to be first. You suck.
Well, David was my first son, right? So David,
but he's David Zachary.
So suck it.
So no matter what, JD has to make the Hall of Fame, or at least get a Hall of Fame vote to do better than you.
I will say this, like, DZ is wanting to change his middle name
to
Allen.
Why?
I'm David Allen. My dad is David Allen.
But why would he care so much about his middle name?
Oh, he just wants it. Oh, it's interesting. It's an interesting conversation that we're having.
Can we get on a Zoom call? Because I got to get on this conversation. I need to know. But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed the show, if you enjoyed listening to our back and forth stupidity, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, and please comment. We love reading all the comments. The more comments, the better. And because how often do you have a chance to interact with a former Major League Baseball player or a former Major League Baseball producer that doesn't know dick? So,
hey, also, I want to throw some love out there on Man Cave Sports. Make sure Clippy Jones killing it. Check out his NBA videos. They're awesome. They're funny as hell. I just don't care about the NBA, but these are funny. They're actually they're right on. So check it out.
Yeah, Clippopotamus Jones. That's his full name. Clippy's full name is Clippopotamus. So Clippopotamus Jones. Make sure you check that out on the channel. It's something new that we're doing, and give him some love too, because he works hard.
Killing it.
And that being said, we'll talk to you next week. Same time, same channel, noon, Thursday. Be there.